Anyways, I'm actually wondering how they're gonna gut, Xilonen, because that is a strong character, you know. Yeah, I am like, I'm very confident. Maybe not very confident. I think it's very likely that Xilonen ends up getting Omega nerfed in beta. I think that's very likely. I think right now there's like two big components to her strength that are probably, the first one is just in a vacuum. When you look at what she gives about 40% res shred and 40% damage. That's the same as Kazuha. Kazuha gives 40% damage and about 40% damage. Her defense, or her resistance shred lasts longer, right? It lasts for 15 seconds. No. Yes. Maybe. I think it lasts for 15 seconds. It lasts for 15 seconds. It's probably gonna be more like 14 with animation times, but whatever. But she doesn't really have personal damage, right? The thing is, as much as Kazuha is a good unit, he's not like outstandingly broke. What makes her such a strong unit in this current state is that the way the game is balanced, kind of, the game is not balanced around you being able to have two Kazuhas that stack on top of each other, right? When you play units of that give the level of buffs that Kazuha gives, right? Units like Kazuha and Sucrose, for example, when you play those two together, your VV doesn't stack. Sure, you get the EM buff from Sucrose, which is a pretty big buff, but it doesn't stack with the VV. Which means if you play both of them, the effectiveness of the second one is significantly lower, right? But that's not the case for Xilonen. Because her res shred is from her kit, and the damage percent is from a set that no one else is using in the team, you get to actually stack the effects together, whether you do Kazuha Xilonen or Sucrose Xilonen. Although Sucrose Xilonen is a little bit less likely to see as much play because I don't know how much. Nice. I don't know how much you'll be able to set up your or do VV setups properly when you only have 2 slots left on your team for them. Right? Usually your VV setups rely on a third unit, but if your third unit is Xilonen, that's kind of not going to work too well. So if you're not doing VV setups of different elements, reactions become weaker. So the EM from Sucrose becomes a lot less valuable than the damage percent from Kazuha. But yeah, the fact that she can stack with Kazuha is a pretty big deal for like 2-unit cores of the same element. Right now, the main 2-unit cores of the same elements that are really strong are Nivelid Farina and Arlecchino Bennett. And both of them are already among the strongest teams in the game, and them getting a unit that works incredibly well with their team core is kind of a big deal. Effectively, Xilonen is giving a pretty sizable buff to the teams that were already pretty much the best ones. Personally, I find it relatively unlikely that a unit this strong is going to make it to live. What I expect to see as changes between now and release, I expect them to make it so that if you get multiple source samples of the same element, it doesn't count towards your counter for the Ascension 1, right? Because in this current state, yeah, the res shred debuff doesn't stack, but if you have 2 Hydro characters, it counts as having 2 source samples, and you can trigger this condition. I could see them changing that so it doesn't work that way anymore, and you need to have 2 different elements. And that could be a way to force you into not using Kazuha with her, right? Or because you'd have to either replace Farina or Kazuha. Can you explain how she works, please? Sure. When she uses her skill, she gets a buff on her, and what the buff does depends on what's in your party. The base buff is it makes it so that enemies around you get Geo-Res spread, but for each element other than Geo in your party, it records that element, and once you max out your Night Soul points, it shreds those elements as well. Her only way to gain Night Soul points is with this passive. Should she have at least 2 source samples that have undergone elemental conversion? So these are like the counters of what elements are on your team. So if you have at least 2 characters on your team that are Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, or Electro, when you hit an opponent, you gain 35 Night Soul points. So she just needs to hit twice because she starts at 45 to max out her 90 and proc her thing. Basically, it'll be easier with some visual support. I don't know what the actual thing looks like, but I'm guessing it's gonna be something like this with 3 thingies here. And when you use your skill, it starts half full. And based on the members of your party, these fill up with different colors, right? So if you have a Hydro character, you'll get Hydro. If you have 2 Hydro characters, you'll get 2 of them. And then something like this, right? And then as long as you fulfill the Essential 1 condition, when you hit enemies, you'll gain a bunch. And then again. And once it's full, it'll shred all of the elements that are here. Geo doesn't count. They're Geo by default. And you get the Geo Res Shred even if you don't fill it up. The Geo Res Shred is unconditional for her. However, keep in mind, part of what makes her a strong support character is her ability to use the Scroll of the Hero of Cinder City, which gives you 40% damage percent. But in order to get that, you need to trigger an elemental reaction, which means you can't do that with 4 Geo characters in your party. You'll need at least 1 that's not Geo. Or to be fighting enemies that have innate infusions. Really, I thought you still needed to activate the samplers to get the Geo Shred. You do, but the Geo Shreds are active by... The Geo Samplers are active by default. The Geo Source samples she carries will remain active throughout, right? In order to activate the non-Geo ones, you have to fill up your Night Soul bar, but the Geo ones are active no matter what. So basically, the actual, like, starting position is this one is active already. Wow, poggers. And then when you hit, you fill this up, and then you fill this up, and once it's completely full, then these activate as well. But yeah, the thing about Xilonen is, like, her design, her kit design, I think is really good, but she's balanced in a way that makes the interesting parts of her kit not matter. I think these numbers are way too low, and this number is way too high. And I wish they would, like, change that around. I wish the like, carry Xilonen playstyle was actually viable. We have too many DPSs, we need more supports. We don't need more Geo supports that literally just read, hey, shred enemy defense, or shred enemy resistance. I don't want new characters that just buff a stat that works on everyone. If you want to give me buffers, give me something that's specific, and otherwise, please give me some actual, like, interesting elemental application supports. Not fucking... you garbage 36% unconditional res shred. That's cringe. Like Chevreuse. You know, I've warmed up to Chevreuse a lot over time. I wish I had her. But I've warmed up to her a lot. Because I've realized that Chevreuse's restriction bothers me a lot less than Nilo. The reason why Nilo's restriction bothers me so much is because she actually brings a new playstyle, and that could be so fun if you could get creative with it, but her restriction prevents you from being creative with it. Chevreuse doesn't actually bring a new playstyle, which means that her restriction doesn't feel like it's preventing you from doing fun things. It effectively just feels like it's rewarding you for restricting yourself in a specific way. Because it's just a numbers increase rather than a new mechanic. So I like that a lot. And I've warmed up to her a lot over time.